ecology. We're really going to be talking about a lot of these interactions between species or between organisms. Because really, at the heart of it is that no organism exists by itself or exists in isolation. There is no island, okay? Every organism takes part in many interactions, and those interactions are caused, or the title of them is called symbiosis. And this is these are close interactions. We're going to look at a lot of the different interactions and some of the ways that organisms have adapted with those adaptations, okay? There are really three types of symbiosis. Parasitism, a form of exploitation, which we'll talk about. Mutualism, which is probably the most commonly one that is used with the word symbiosis. And then commensalism. So we'll talk about those three and what they are. Okay. These species interactions are greatly affect the entire ecosystem. Okay. And they affect the population densities, they affect population size. So species interactions affect population size, densities, community structure. They affect a lot of things. So we're going to see how that works, okay? So let's look at the first type of interaction, which is mutualism. Mutualism is probably the easiest one to understand. And this one is a lot of these times we represent these with symbols. So this is a plus situation. Both species benefit. Okay. There are thousands of examples. Probably the most common is usually a pollinator and a flower. Pollinator and flower. This picture over on the side is of a zebra with a cowbird, they're called. And so this bird eats it's a tick bird. Sometimes they eat the ticks off the zebra. It gets food. The zebra benefits by getting ticks removed. Okay, both benefit. Commensalism is the next one that you're going to see. And in commensalism, what happens is that one benefits and one doesn't really care. Okay, so it's a +0 relationship. Okay, so benefits one, other doesn't care. Okay, the barnacles on a whale. The barnacles get a free ride, they get food, all that kind of stuff. The whale could care less that they're there. Okay, so it's a +0. This picture is of what's called an epiphyte plant. It's a little hard to see, but it's a plant growing on another plant. A lot of times that the plant gets benefits because it gets a place to live and it gets a place to attach, and it gets access to light for photosynthesis, but the plant that it lives on could care less that it's there. It doesn't really affect it. Okay. Amensalism is sort of a weird one. It's a -0. Okay, it's -0. Okay, so one doesn't care, or is unaffected, is another way to say that. The other is harmed. The most common example of this one is big herbivores that trample the grass, and that's what the picture is of, okay? So the herbivore could care less that it's trampling, and the other is harmed. The grass is harmed because it gets trampled. So big animals kill grass. Okay. The next category is this idea of exploitation. Okay, exploitation is when one species benefits and at the expense of the other. Okay, so this is another way to think of this is a +- relationship. There are three types. So the first one, you're probably thinking of, is predation. Okay, so predator kills the prey. The second type is herbivory. Herbivory is a little bit different than predation, is that the herbivore, it doesn't kill the plant usually, okay? Usually doesn't kill the plant. Just eats some of the leaves, let's say. but it harms the plant. The plant needs those leaves to do photosynthesis, and now it doesn't have them, so now it has to make some more energy making them, okay? And then the last one is a parasite, or parasitism. And again, a parasite, if you remember, does not want to kill its host, okay? Parasites don't want to kill their host. They like living there. They just harm them. Parasites usually don't kill hosts, but they harm them, so it's a plus minus. The parasite wins, the host loses, okay? So let's continue to look. There's a couple more of these interactions, 2 more left of these interactions. The next one is this antibiosis, kind of a weird word, okay? What this is, it's sort of a tricky one in that one species benefits by making a compound to prevent the growth of another. So it's actually another example of the plus minus situation, but in a different way. So one species benefits by producing a chemical or compound of some sort which inhibits growth. Think antibiotics, okay? The fungus is producing the chemicals that bacteria cannot grow, which inhibits growth of another. Eucalyptus trees produce a chemical. There's actually a lot of plants that do this. Produces a chemical so that there's an area, that's what this is showing here. There's an area where plants or nothing can grow. And so that eucalyptus tree or that plant, this plant here, does not have to compete with other plants because there's an area of no growth because it produced a chemical that inhibited growth, okay? So the classic example of antibiosis is antibiotics, but then also we'll do plant growth. And then our last species interaction that we're going to examine is the idea of competition, okay? Competition is when 2 species compete for the same resource. So it is a minus situation. We'll look at, and they can really affect a community structure, okay? 2 species compete for same resource. Okay. Predator-prey relationships really drive a lot of evolution, and there's a lot of things that can happen. And there's a lot of things like structures that exist in animals so that they can either capture prey or avoid prey. Okay, so just remember, predators are working to capture prey. And prey is trying to avoid it, trying to avoid capture. So let's look at some of the ways that predators can, some predator avoidance strategies, or ways that prey can avoid it. The first is this idea of mimicry. Mimicry is where one species looks like another. And there's 2 types. The first type is what's called Mullerian, and it has these little weird guys on that, okay? Mullerian is where both are harmful, or maybe they taste bad, okay? Both species are harmful. The other one is Batesian, which is actually more common, mimicry, okay? One is harmful, or taste bad. Actually, like the monarch butterfly tastes bad, and there's a viceroy that is harmless, okay, or tastes fine. But what happens is one is harmful and other is harmless. Here's a wasp beetle over here. It mimics a wasp. It's harmless, okay? So the idea is that the predator will avoid this because it looks like it's something that's harmful. Another predator avoidance strategy is being poisonous. And they advertise it. They're brightly colored, okay? So, like, you say, hey, I'm poisonous. So usually you're brightly colored to advertise harmful. That's why some organisms, you're like, why would you be that brightly colored? Because they don't care. They say we're harmful. They're not trying to hide anything, okay? Sometimes they have these weird deceptive marks. You can see this butterfly. It looks like it has this eye spot here because it makes it, one, it makes it look like a much bigger animal. And then two, if it gets eaten right in here, not a big deal because its body is actually down in here, okay? So they have this visual deception. So they usually have, like, a lot of times it's large fake eyes to deceive predators. And then another one is chemical defense. Skunks are classic examples. They produce chemicals so predators avoid. If you smell bad, you don't want to hang out with them. Okay. All right, let's keep looking at some of these other ones. You could have a weapon, some kind of weapon to defend yourself. Horns are a great example of that. Now, obviously, sometimes the horns are also to attract the females, but they also are a good weapon. So sometimes you have weapons to defend yourself. Okay. Now, another example or another thing that animals have, or last thing, is they could be camouflage. Okay. They could be what's called cryptic coloration. To blend in with their background. There's thousands of examples of camouflage. Avoiding predator. Now, don't think that the predator is always going to lose here, because predators have just as quickly evolved prey capturing species. So one of the things that they actually do, for some predators, actually conceal. They also will camouflage. They kind of blend in with their surroundings to strike the prey when they get into reach. So they kind of trick the prey. Some predators are just filter feeders. These guys, a lot of the marine mammals, for example, they just filter the water. And there's a lot of other things too. Barnacles, sponges, all that kind of stuff. This is a manta ray. So they just filter the water to extract plankton. That's how they get their prey. Another example of this is that some animals use tools. You can see the picture of the chimpanzee over there trying to, they actually use like sticks to get termites. So use tools to capture prey. Some organisms actually use that, like they use night, or they have like infrared type detecting equipment, or even like snakes can sense warmth or something like that. So use night to sneak up on predators. I'm sorry, on prey. Owls are really good at this. They have really, really good hearing to sneak up on there. Okay. Lures. The anglerfish has this little lure to lure things in. A lot of glowing worms. Some spiders use lures. So they use to lure in prey. And then some use traps. Think of a spider using a trap. Used to capture prey. So all ways to bring in prey, okay? Now what's happened is the prey are getting faster and stronger and better. So the predators have to get faster and stronger and better in order to get